Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today we have another remarkable book for you. And today's story is called The Month of Christmas and How It Began, Part 2. Please see the link in the description below for Part 1. Now, this wonderful story is about Santa, Miss Claus, the elves, and all the great people that live in the North Pole. Now let's see what happens. Let's get started. There are 25 days in this month. During Christmas month, everyone who lives at the North Pole is busy making gifts, delicious treats, and doing fun activities. For Santa and all the elves, gifts are a way of giving, and they believe Christmas is about giving, not getting. Now, who lives at the North Pole? I've told you how Christmas began, and do you know everyone who lives at the North Pole? This is me, of course. Now, when Santa built his house, he built it near my mouse hole in a snowy field. He saw me one day and asked if I wanted to live in a nice warm house instead of a cold hole in the ground. And I said, "Yes, thank you." Of course, wouldn't you? And there's Santa. He has many names around the world besides Santa Claus, Father Christmas, Saint Nicholas, Saint Nick, Kris Kringle are just a few of his names. And he's also called Père Noël in French and Santa Claus in Dutch. And Santa's wife lives here, of course. Now, Mrs. Claus has a bakery and cafe. She makes the yummiest foods, especially cakes and cookies. And that is why Santa is fat. He loves her cookies and cakes. In the enchanted forest, Mrs. Claus led the local elf scout troop. Now the scouts would deliver cookies they baked to all the residents of the enchanted forest. Mrs. Claus also taught the scouts to do good deeds, which they did on a daily basis. She has a elf scout troop at the North Pole now, and the elf scouts have all won badges for baking cookies and doing good deeds. Other than Santa, Mrs. Claus and me, there are the elves and reindeer who came with Santa before time began. And the elves are very skilled craftsmen, and they can make anything. Now they make only wooden toys using wood from the gingerbread man's tree farm, where he grows wooden toy trees. Now, wooden toy trees have a special wood with no bark, no leaves, and wood that is very smooth, ready to be made into toys. And they also make dolls, stuffed animals, and clothes using cotton materials and yarn made by the miller's daughter, who is a master weaver and seamstress. And it is said that she can weave straw into gold. Now, did you know that cavemen children had toys? The elves tell a story about a caveman who visited the North Pole, and he saw the toys that the elves were making and went back and began making toys. Toys were first made by hand, and today most toys are made by machines. Santa even has some toy making machines. and the machines were designed and made magic by the fairies. They only make wooden toys, and the elves need help making toys. Some years, if children have been especially kind and generous, and elf simply puts a piece of wood in the machine and out pops a toy. Some elves take care of the reindeer. They feed them, brush them, and give them baths. And Santa's reindeer can fly. Have you seen reindeer fly? Well, Santa's can. Their names are Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen. Do you remember who gave the reindeer the ability to fly? The Sugar Plum Fairies did. The fairies made that happen, as they promised. Now, the Sugar Plum Fairies are very big help to Santa all year long. They have several jobs. One is to deliver Christmas cookies that the elves bake. They also collect and deliver moonbeams, stardust, and Christmas stars. Now, I will tell you more about that later. The fairies have one more job, and it is the most important one. They fly around the world and look for people, not only children, being kind and generous. And they do this all year long, but especially during Christmas month. And they make two lists for Santa. The kind and generous people go on the nice list, and the others go on the naughty list. If a person is kind or generous one day and not the next, they can change lists. And the opposite is also true. Now, I'll tell you more about how the list works later. So you better watch out, and you better not cry. You better not pout, and I will tell you why. Do you know Santa is coming on the 25th day of Christmas month? He uses the list to decide what to give to people all around the world. Some will get gifts and some will get coal. Now, do you know who else lives at the North Pole? Santa's cat and dog do. Fudge is dog, is brown, and guards Santa's workshop. And his cat is white with blue eyes, and her name is Iris. She loves to play and help Santa with the gifts. Now, when Santa left the enchanted forest, he did not have a cat. And here is how he got Iris. Now, one day in the enchanted forest, 4 little kittens were outside their home, looking for their mittens. A blue butterfly fluttered through the yard. One of the kittens, a white one, began to chase it, as kittens will do. And the butterfly led the kitten to a deep, dark well. And when the kitten jumped up on the well to catch it, the butterfly turned into the dark fairy and startled her. The evil fairy laughed and disappeared, and the kitten fell to the bottom of the well. Wet and scared, she cried. She had bumped her head on the way down. And it happened that day that the Sugar Plum Fairies had come to the enchanted forest to visit their sister, Tinkerbell. And they heard the kitten crying and flew to the well. The pink fairy waved her wand, and the kitten rose out of the well. She was cold, wet, and scared. And the blue fairy asked, "Who put you in the well? Don't know. I don't remember. I just found myself in the well, cold and wet, with a bump on my head, replied the kitten. And the orange fairy said, I bet it was the dark fairy. She is wicked. I wish she was not our sister. Yes, said Tinkerbell. The dark fairy is also their sister. Now the green fairy asked, where do you live? And the kitten, still shaking from the cold water, said, I don't know. I don't remember. The orange fairy then asked, would you like to live with us at the North Pole? And the kitten said she would love to. Now off they flew to the North Pole. The kitten magically flew too. I wonder how that happened. The fairies would have to visit Tinkerbell another day. And when they arrived, Mrs. Claus saw the kitten and said, oh, what a beautiful kitten. I love kittens. I had a white kitten with blue eyes, just like this one, when I was a little girl. And the fairies had a quick discussion amongst themselves. What do you think they're talking about? And then the blue fairy asked Mrs. Claus, would you like to take care of the kitten? And she replied, oh yes, can I? And the green fairy said, if it's all right with her. And the kitten looked at Mrs. Claus, smiled, and said, yes, I would like that. And Mrs. Claus was overjoyed. And she said, I will name her Iris because her eyes are the color of the iris flower. And so that is how Santa got a cat. Now you will hear more about our adventures during Christmas month. Now let me tell you who else lives at the North Pole. My friends, the Christmas mice do, and they deliver candy canes to all the nice people in the world during Christmas month. And I'll tell you more about that later. They live in the fields around the North Pole. And the Nutcracker and his soldiers guard the North Pole. And late in the month, the fairies perform part of the Nutcracker ballet. And at the North Pole, there are some who can be naughty. I'm talking about Jack Frost and the Christmas goblins. And Jack was once an elf, but now he can fly. He also has magical powers given to him by Old Man Winter. He is rightly called a pixie. And in the fall, before the month of Christmas, he flies around the world, painting the leaves beautiful shades of red and orange and yellow. He is quite an artist. Now, Jack also brings the frosty weather, so it feels like Christmas time. He paints frost on the trees and grass and even on the windows of houses. He's best friends with the North Wind and Old Man Winter, and they work together to make it cold and snowy. Jack also plays tricks. He thinks he's very funny, and he loves to annoy Santa and the elves. He annoyed a fairy once, but she zapped him with a wand, and he does not bother fairies anymore. Now, the Christmas goblins look mean and scary, but they are not. They're just thieves, like pocket mice, who live in the desert and steal from kangaroo rats. They always try to steal Christmas cookies, candy, and gifts. Now, you'll see what I mean as I tell you more about the month of Christmas. Wow. What a wonderful, wonderful story. Thank you so much for joining us again, boys and girls, for this remarkable story time. We thank you for being here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you soon.